Hi everyone, in this video we're gonna learn everything about GitHub so you can go from an absolute beginner into absolutely using GitHub and becoming a professional open sourcer or more familiar with GitHub and how to use its services. So if you're just getting started as a developer and absolutely can't figure out what is GitHub and why people like everyone, literally everyone is using GitHub and how to use this properly to set up your account, to start pushing repositories, to learn more about Git, use GitHub Actions, and so much more. Well, in this particular video, we're going to go through all the details and step by step into like a beginner's guide into GitHub, from like setting up an account and to be able to put in or push in your GitHub Actions and running workflows in the middle of going like repositories, managing a real world project, building that from source, using the GitHub issues or PRs, merging PRs, and so much more. So without further ado guys, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We first need to know like how GitHub works, or what is GitHub in general. So if you imagine this is actually the GitHub services, it's actually more like, you know, the main central point of different stuff that are happening around your projects. So imagine this is like the GitHub services, and imagine you've got a team of like Alex, John, or maybe like Mary in here. This is what a team looks like. And in the other hand, you got a different team like contractors or whatever are just like working on the same projects as you are. So this is what it looks like. This is your ecosystem, how it looks like. So GitHub in here is going to be like the main central point, like where all these people or all these developers, because I'm going to call them developers because they, you know, commit and work on code. So all of these developers are like going to be like committed to use GitHub, which is this main central point of retrieving and getting project changes or the latest version of the project, and, you know, the main copy one. Okay, so instead of like everyone copies and just like, you know, uses a USB hard drive or whatever like that and copy pastes the project every single time there's a change, no, it doesn't work like that. Now GitHub changes all the everything, and GitHub stores your projects in like, you know, using the Git management system or the Git version control system. So he puts that into this central point in here, and this is going to be like the main projects repository where everyone, literally everyone in the team is going to be like working on this. So for example, John can like put a new pull request, which means like, oh, I have some changes, I want to put it into the project. So he creates a new pull request, and for submitting a new feature into the projects, he asks Git to do it, or GitHub. This one, or Alex in here, he's been in PTO, or like he's been away for a holiday, and he came back and so, oh, there's so many changes, how am I gonna grab them? He just does a pull request from GitHub itself, and this is where like, you know, the latest version and the most recent updated version of the projects is up there on the GitHub repositories. Mary in here wants to run an action to deploy the latest version. It can do it as well to deploy to the cloud. The other team in here is developing a completely breaking feature in here that, for example, concerns payments or whatever, and is like developing it on a separate branch so it doesn't affect the other people, but it's still gonna be like put it inside of the main central point, which is the GitHub. So in a general point, what GitHub looks like is more like where you store it. It's like a single repository and a shared repository where everyone can store code and like have the latest version of the current project and access it whenever they want or however they want through on their computers, and they can work remotely, in office, whatever. But this actually going to like store the most recent version of their projects into their servers. And if you think only there's one GitHub that exists, it doesn't work like that. There are so many version control platforms compared to GitHub, like so many of them. For example, there's GitHub, of course, there's like the GitLab, which is pretty good and has really awesome features. There's Bitbucket, which mostly used by enterprises, but it does the same thing as GitHub, which is a version control platforms, and so much more in here you can use. But mostly people go about GitHub because, you know, it's the most used platform out there for Git and open source, especially open source. That's why I see a lot of trendy stuff going on GitHub, and so many people uses GitHub. So without further ado guys, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's go ahead and get started, and let's just treat ourselves as absolute beginners that we've never used GitHub, and this is our first time, our first impression with the GitHub landing page, and we're just gonna get started by creating our portfolio or our GitHub account, and we're gonna like, you know, enter the word of Git and GitHub and see how it goes. So this is basically the landing page of GitHub in here. You've probably seen it before, but it's a really nice, awesome landing page. They reworked the whole thing in here, and I love this 3D globe in here, which allows you like real-time collaboration happening happening between different developers and different repositories. So this is really sweet. I'm absolutely in love with this. It has a really good landing page. You can go ahead and check out more about the services that GitHub offers and everything. But for us to get started with GitHub, you always gonna be needing a sign up button to click on to set up your account in here. So I already did this in here, so I can grab my own account in here. So I can put let me just put it next to this one. So I chose my email, I put a password, simply I chose a username. And for this step, for the username step, you must know that for a username you probably just like need a unique username. So I chose this gitmaster404 whatever. So make sure to choose a username that does work with you and it's actually unique, and you can easily remember it, and it looks pretty sweet and slick. So that's it. And verify a quick puzzle, then click create your account, and you're ready to go. You probably already know about that, so you can just go and grab the code from the email and you can get started. So I got my verification code, I copy paste it in here. As soon as it pasted, there you go, it tells us welcome to GitHub. So how many team members you will be working on. For us, it's just gonna be me, and most beginners who are getting with GitHub are just like students, so you can choose students in here, or a teacher if you're a teacher getting started with GitHub. No problem. So here, like what features you're going to be using, maybe they just like a survey, like a quick survey, maybe like community teams. I'm going to be using client apps. I'm going to use some security. I don't care about security for now. I'm going to use automation and CI/CD for actions or GitHub workflows. Click continue. And it's going to get you to the tires of GitHub like what it has. I'm going to continue for free, but of course they have a pro, but the free one basically supports, since Microsoft like recently acquired GitHub in here. So they made a lot of things free, and thankfully they have like got a lot of frees in here, like 2,000 actions minute per month. You got 500 megabytes as a storage for packages, and unlimited public and private repositories, which is just insane. So yeah, you can just go and continue for free. And there you go. So we started our journey into GitHub, and I absolutely adore this new UI. So as soon as you get started, this is basically the UI of GitHub. You've probably already seen it, but this is actually from a standpoint of a complete beginner who just got started with GitHub and who just got like created his first account. So this is actually a newbie beginner. As clearly seen, like this is our account. It has no images, nothing at all. So first things first, to get started with an account, of course, you may want to like just go into your profile and you change your profile. So this is what your profile looks like right now. It's actually like a brand new empty profile that, you know, has nothing. And you've got only a single green dot in here, so you got a single contribution. So I want to edit my profile. I want to enter my name. So I'm going to do Islam Mahmoud, even though I already have got it like another profile, but it doesn't matter. Maybe there's going to be like a software developer and React lover, something like this. All right. Company, whatever, freelance, maybe I'm a freelancer or something like this, whatever. So you can just like reflect whatever you've got in here. For example, I work at Toptail or something. You can put in here like location, maybe, my location is over the internet, so I'm a remote developer, so I can be anywhere actually. This is your Twitter handle, so I'm gonna be putting my Twitter handle in here, maybe your website in here. Maybe I can use my YouTube channel, why not? If you've got a portfolio, a profile, like another web page, even though it's a pretty simple web page that is hosted on Netlify with no custom domain or whatever, just host it in here. You want people to know that you did something, right? You don't have to make the best thing though, but you must know, or we must know, like, people love to see other people's trying, especially developers. So please, whatever you've got, whenever you're like setting up your GitHub profile, always include whatever you've got. Never be shame. Never try, I don't have this like really good profile. Doesn't really matter, because you're gonna learn, and everyone is gonna learn eventually, and everyone is in the process of building themselves. So just try it, just put whatever you've got in, and make sure to enjoy the day, of course. So yeah, I'm gonna save this real quick. And there you go. We got our, kind of really better profile already set up. We can go ahead and choose like a profile picture in here real quick. All right. We also did set up in here our profile pictures just to make it look a little bit more professional. So always, as just like a quick advice, always add your profile picture to your GitHub account or your GitHub portfolio, just to make people think, oh, this person is quite professional. And please make sure to add like a headshot that is pretty good as well, pretty well lit in.
Maybe you can go to a photographer or something just to take a photo for you, so you would look absolutely professional. Okay, so added that looks absolutely sick now. Now what I wanted to do look is actually the general layout of GitHub, so you can just quickly navigate. I'm pretty sure like if you're just getting started with GitHub right now, you would just have this interface to be a little bit more confusing for you because you're not used to it. Okay, so first things first, what you need to always think about is the top bar in here, which is absolutely very important. So you got this profile bell, which I personally use always to navigate through the GitHub. So here you can access your profile, your repositories. So whatever your code repositories you've got, you can access them in here. You can access your code spaces, which is basically just like a VS Code or a code editor on the cloud, which you're probably not going to be needing. Your projects, which are like repositories in collaboration with other people. There's your stars in here. So whatever or whenever you start a repository from other developer, other group of people, you're going to find it in here. Your gist as well, you can think of gist as always as like code snippets, like small files that has specific code snippets to show off, and you can find like settings and everything and the sign out. So for me, I always use like your profile to go through this. Maybe click in here, go to your repositories to find my repositories, which by the way, I haven't added anything. And you can use this navigation bar as well in here, which is pretty sweet. I don't care about this, sorry. And also, if you just want to jump to the main page, so the main page is very important as well. So in here, you're going to see all your activity. So for if you like start somebody and they put some changes, or you're watching a particular repository and they do some changes, like they do new like pull requests or PRs, they do it in new versions, they do it in new releases, they change the code, they push in new commits, whatever they do in there, you're going to be seeing it in this wall in here. So this is like your notification wall, and as well, it's actually the main page that you land whenever you access your profile. So this is where you're going to see all your activity. Maybe if somebody else followed you, maybe if somebody else started your projects, all the activity that happens and like includes you throughout the GitHub ecosystem, you're going to find it right over here, which is absolutely like very nice. You can also access pull requests and issues in here if you have like repositories and you're maintaining a lot of projects. For us, you're just getting started, so we won't have a lot of issues in pull request. The other awesome feature about GitHub, which offers a marketplace, and I absolutely adore the marketplace in here because you can easily go ahead and install different kind of stuff, like maybe the Circle CI in here to do CI/CD or continuous integration and continuous deployments. Maybe the image bot in here, that is a bot that allows you to do particular images and optimizations, AWS rollup, and much more. And all these apps, you can use them to optimize or actually just like put different workflows for your repositories to make your life a lot easier and to make it more professional to work with teams and everything. Alright, that's just a quick understanding and quick walkthrough throughout like the interface of GitHub and what it looks like and the general UI for you. So you can just quickly jump right through the interface. Alrighty, we got understanding what GitHub is. Now the next step and the most important step about GitHub is actually creating, managing, pushing, pulling, and adding commits to a repository. So I'm going to start with a repository, and we're going to see what is a repository and how to create one throughout GitHub. So you can just click this like plus button, or you can go in here. It's literally everywhere, but the plus button is always the best way. So you click on that and you click on new repository. So this one will give you this really awesome interface. So this will ask you what is the repository name that you need to create. Make sure the repository name is unique among other repositories you have. Okay, so the repository name in here should be absolutely unique. And what I'm doing in here, for example, so I'm gonna just like name it something, and they can just like suggest you something here just out of fun. You can add a description, make it private or public, and you can add a README file. A README file is basically a markdown file that tells other developers that goes into the, like whenever you go into a repository, you see that README, which is well written and gives you instructions on how to use the repository, what is the repository about, how to install dependencies, and yada yada yada. So it's just like general instructions about that particular repository and how to use it properly. Okay, that's pretty sweet. So this is basically the interface. Now for a repository, it is basically a project that you're going to be putting hosting on your GitHub profile, either publicly or privately, that is only shared with a couple of specified people and developers. But most of the times open source or GitHub is mostly used for public stuff. So you want to put your repository or your projects publicly, and you need to create a repository for it. All right, so let's see what we want to do in here. I got two projects. I got one is actually the Wordle AI, which is if you're familiar with the Wordle application or the Wordle game that took the internet the last couple of weeks. So this is actually just an AI that allows you to play that, and it's actually a Chrome extension. So this is our project in here. It's open on VS Code. It has an SRC, has a public directory, has node modules. This is just basically a React and HTML, JavaScript application scripts in here, and as well it's like a made a part of the Node.js ecosystem. So this is what our project is. So we're gonna take all of this code, like all of this one, and put it inside of this repository. So this is like it's called a project right now because right here, you call it, this is my project. This is the Wordle AI projects, right? But once you push it into GitHub, once you push it into GitHub exactly, you're gonna need change the name in here into a repository because this comes like a repository and you can store and you can change the repository and stuff like that. All right, pretty sweet. So I got two projects in here. I got a React 3D, which is just like a 3D Earth in here. So if you check in this one, this is what it is. It's actually using 3JS and it renders this really awesome 3D Earth. So I'm going to try both of these repositories, trying to push them and see the different changes that we can see in how to create a repository. Sweet. Okay, I'm jumping back in here. I'm going to go to the Wordle AI because it's the most important one. And I'm going to go create in here like maybe Wordle AI. Okay, just name it like this. And it's clear to see the Wordle AI is available because it's under only my username in here. Sweet. So let's go and enter a description. So I'm going to do Wordle AI solver using JavaScript as a Chrome extension. All right, leave this public for anyone to access this throughout the internet. And if you scroll a little bit down, you can go and add a README in here. But since for our projects, we already got a README file here. So there's no need to create a README for it because once we push that particular project into the repository, this README will be just be put in there. All right, so that's pretty sweet. I'm not going to add this. You can add a git ignore, but I already got a git ignore in here. So where is that? Yeah, it's right here. So no need for it. And you can choose a license for this, which is a pretty sweet one. So you can choose a license of what the project could be. Since right here, we don't have any licenses or whatever, but I'm not going to care about this much. So I'm just going to go through and click create repository to just jump through and create a repository. So, awesome. So once you create a repository and it's completely empty and brand new, you're going to be stumbling upon this particular page. So you're going to have two options, either to push through HTTPS or SSH. So most of the times, HTTPS is the easier part. But for more advanced usage, you can go with SSH in here. So I'm going to just go and choose HTTPS because everyone has HTTPS and everyone can access HTTPS. So this is going to be the most easier part. But mostly with the new GitHub, it won't actually allow you to use HTTPS, so you probably need to set up SSH for better usage. So you can use HTTPS, but in this particular video tutorial, we will go through how to use SSH and how to add a public SSH key to your profile and add it to your computer so you can use SSH securely. And it's actually the best choice to go through because GitHub nowadays doesn't actually allow a lot of HTTPS kind of workarounds for management of your repositories and accounts. So it's better to have SSH once and for all. So to generate SSH, you simply just go up, open up a terminal in here. So it could be a VS Code terminal, it could be whatever you want, but I can go in and open up a different terminal in here, just to see what is going on, everything. All right. So to generate an SSH key, there is, if you're Linux or Windows, you probably got the command installed in here. So this is called a command called SSH keygen, which is a key generator in here to generate an SSH key. So you click on that, it's clear so you get, generating a public private RSA key pair in here. And it's actually going to give you, this is where the location we're going to be putting it by default. And the key is going to be named ID RSA. So this is the default name of it. If you don't have another one with the same name, go for it. But if you do, you can rename this. For me, I'm going to leave it as is. I'm just going to go continue through. So I'm going to click enter. It says, you've got already an ID RSA. Yes, I know that. I got a copy of it. So I'm going to go through this. So enter a passphrase in here. So you need to enter a password for it. So I can go ahead and enter a quick password in here. So do that. Verify the password again. Click enter, and there you go. Now the SSH key has been successfully generated for us. So to access this, I'm going to go to .ssh. Okay, there's a folder called .ssh at the home directory. So same for Windows, same for Mac users. I'm on Ubuntu in here, by the way. So here you're going to find if you do cat ID, so if you do just ls in here, you're going to find idrsa.pub .pub, and this is basically what you want. So you don't need the IDRSA, but you need the IDRSA.pub, which stands for the public key. So you can do cat IDRSA.pub, and this is going to be the public key in here. So and once you can it, you can just go and select all the text you got, like right click and copy that. Okay, so this is the text that you need, and this is where what you're going to be basically putting inside of your GitHub repository or your GitHub account. Sorry. Okay, so make sure to choose the public one, not the private one. The private one always stays private. That's why it's called private in your computer. Okay, so let's jump back in here. I'm gonna go to my profile, go to settings. I'm gonna like open up a new tab, so I don't want to just like lose this one. And once you go in here, you're gonna find SSH and GPG keys. Select it real quick, do a new SSH key, and here you're gonna give it a title. Okay, so like tests or whatever SSH key, and here you put your actual stuff. So as you can see, like it begins with SSH RSA or whatever, and it starts with SSH RSA indeed, which means, oh, we are in the right track. So I'm gonna add SSH key in here. Boom, SSH has been added. It can read and write and it can be doing anything, and it has been never used. All right, sweet. I'm gonna close this one. I'm gonna choose SSH in here, and I'm gonna go back right over here. I'm gonna copy this one, and I'm gonna just go ahead and like push the project that we've got from here, this particular project, push it into this repository using SSH, since now we have actually the SSH set up for both our account and our machine. So if you head to our repository or our projects in VS Code in here, and we got this open. So this one hasn't been initialized. So let's just imagine this is a particular brand new project that has no Git initialization yet. So if you want to check if it does or not, you can, if you're in VS Code, you can just go and do like you click on the source control tab in here, and you can find, oh, this folder currently doesn't have any Git repository, so you can go and initialize that. So there is two ways to initialize this, either the command line or the VS Code stuff. So I would rather have the command line because it's a lot better, but you can go and click like initialize repository in here, and it's going to initialize repository for you. All right, that's pretty simple. It's just like as simple as that. And this is actually the stuff that are going to be added into the build and everything. So I'm going to go and double check in here. So there's so many stuff in here. There's the gitignore in here that has something. So I'm gonna just add a couple stuff to the gitignore, maybe the CRX in here and the build.pm. Okay, so if I add anything to the gitignore in here, they will be ignored by Git, which means they're not going to be added to the repository, and they're not going to be committed, which means they're not going to be pushed into our new repository. All right, that's so sweet. So I've got everything I want to push. So what I can go in and do, I can go and commit in here, so I can enter a message, or I can do like git add to stage the changes and do like git status to check out, oh, this is actually the stage changes. Okay, so I can go and do git commit, and I can always do the initial commit. Okay, pretty simple. And all of those are added. As you see, they are pretty simple and added. So you can do git push to origin and to master in here, to our branch in here, which is called master by default. If you're not familiar with Git basics, we're not going to the like Git basics really. So this is more like a GitHub overview rather than the Git basics. So yeah, so we're choosing the branch in here, we're choosing the origin, which is our origin. You can go and push it. But wait a second, did we specify origin already? We did not. So how are we supposed to push that? Okay, that's a good point. Now, how do we specify an origin, or what do we mean by an origin? Basically, an origin is a remote repository URL that you're going to be pushing and pulling changes from. That's simple, right? And how do you check if you've already got an origin or not? So you can just do git remote and use -v for the view. Exclusive returned empty result, which means we have no origin yet, so there's no remote repositories that is already linked with this particular project in here or with this local Git repository. So of course, if you're not familiar with the notion of like local Git repository, which is a local project that sits in your computer right here, and a remote Git repository, which is a remote one that, for example, this new one that we've created, this is actually called a remote Git repository. Okay, so I'm going to refer those throughout the video so for you just to be able to follow up. So how can you add an origin? So you can do git remote add, and this will add whatever origin. So you can name this origin, or you can name this my origin, you can name this whatever, but just make sure later on just to specify it. But like this community standard or the Git standard stuff, like the main repository is always going to be named origin. Okay, so just name it origin, open up two quotes in here, and go ahead and paste whatever you've got. So we're going to be pasting our URL in here. It's SSH one. So click enter. Now if you do git remote -v again, there you go. We got both the fetch and the push, and they are actually put in as our origin. So you can add multiple origins, but for now we only got one. Okay, so let's go ahead and push our origin in here. You can do this from the source control as well. So you can do it like git branch. Just check out the commands. You can go and check it. Repositories. Yes, we got a single repository that is already compared in here, and it clearly tells, oh, you want to publish master to GitHub? You can do it. Or you can just click publish branch in here, and it will just take a couple of seconds to publish that branch. And there you go. Now the branch has been completely published. If you go and check out this, Control R to refresh the page. Hallelujah! We got our first repository pushed into GitHub. Yay! Congrats, guys. And if you check this repository real quick, you can see we got our README file in here, which is already pretty good. We got all the files that we specified we want to get. And beside the ones that we specified, oh, don't touch by the git ignore or whatever. Well, screws in here, it all works perfectly. And we got our first repository pushed, and both of this remote repository and the actual private repository are both links, or the private project we got in here are both links. As curious for the remote in here, we got an origin, and this is the remote for it. We got a single branch. It's actually on GitHub, and these actually are links for it. So you can choose both VS Code if you've got like a different software. I'm a big fan of VS Code, but to be honest, but if you've got like a different software like the source tree or any other Git software, maybe the GitHub desktop, that is pretty good website or software as well. I'm a Linux guy, so you can live with me like that. Also, to make sure that you're pushing changes using the right user that you're authenticated with on your GitHub profile in here. So make sure to change your username on the Git CLI. So to do so, you just go and use Git, and you put config in here, and on the config in here, there's actually this particular configuration that allows you to do that. So you do like user.name, and here you set the username in here. So I'm going to paste my username. So this will set the username, and also I'm going to do config.user.email, and this will put our email, and this particularly won't set it globally, so it won't be applied on the whole like operating system on all projects. This will only be applied to the current project right here. So if you want to apply globally, you can just go and do like config -- global, but for us, I want to apply it only to this because this is not my default thing I want to use always. So I'm going to do my email in here, and click enter. Now if you do config -- list, so this is our configuration. All right, pretty sweet and pretty good. Now let's go and try to do some quick change in here, maybe the background scripts, anything, just to add a quick comment in here. This is a comment, so just a quick change. Control S, save it. We're gonna have like this change registered, new change. I'm gonna put in a new commit, like would like to stage all changes. Yes, I would like to stage all my changes and put the commits. So if you check the commit history, yes, there is this changes in here. So I want to sync changes. So I want to push this, push and pull commits to and from origin. Okay, go ahead and push me the latest commits or latest changes from this repository to our remote repository. If you go ahead and check it, refresh. So let's go and see. It's clearly from Git master 404. Now it changed. We got this new change in here, and it has been put. If you want to check out like the full commit history, I was using my older profile in here. Then I changed it since I changed the email. Now it works. So sometimes you may find that a little bit confusing, but it's actually pretty easy. So you can just go to the Git config, change your username and email, and you are actually good to go. Now let's go ahead and see the notion of PRs in like the GitHub word, and how to use PRs, and how like somebody else, another developer, can collaborate with you on your own project. So for example, this is your current project. It's called the Wordo AI, and let's say, oh, there's somebody else called Ipinus in here, which is my other official account. So let's say this guy, oh, is very much interested in this Wordo AI player, and he wants to contribute to something. Let's say it's just like a small thing as just fixing the README file, or maybe adding some stuff to the code in here. So this one in black in here is my official account in here, my different account, and this one is the Git master 404. So you can just see the separation here between black and white, so you're not being confused. So how we can create PRs, or what are PRs? So PRs are like pull requests, and what I mean by all of this is actually like just asking either the main developer in here, the moderator or the admin of this particular repository, just telling him, hey, I got this new change and I got this particular improvement for your code or for your repository, and I put it on a separate branch, and it must be on a separate branch, not on the master branch, because you can't push into the master branch. And they say, oh, I want to contribute. I put it into the whatever separate branch it is, and I created a PR, and a PR is actually a pull request from that separate branch to the master branch. So you can merge that changes to the master branch, and they can be applied to the main repository in here if the new or the admin or the moderator of this particular repository accepts the PR merge. Sweet. So let's see that in action to be able to understand a little bit better. So as you can see, this is our old repository, which is controlled by the git master 404 user. And if I close this, I clone the same repository on my other part in here, which is now being used by IPNOS itself, so my other account. So let's say this repository or this particular project is owned by a completely different person, and he wants to collaborate and create a new pull request on the same project here, which is the Word AI. So you see, I renamed it to Word AI copy, so we can just differentiate between the different projects. Okay, pretty sweet. Now, before creating a PR, you need a change. So you need to whatever changes you're going to be changing on the source code itself. So I'm going to do and here I'm going to do whatever I'm going to put on the readme file. So I'm going to say, so maybe do something, new PR change. Okay. Just something small in here. I'm going to change the readme file in here. So this actually applies to whatever you want to change in here. Maybe you want to add a comment, using memorize LRU cache, something like this. Just whatever change you got in here, and you want to put it into the main repository. Okay, so you got two files change in here. So I want to first go ahead and create a branch for those before committing. So how can I go and create a branch? You can go to branches in here, you click add, you name this branch to new improve, maybe readme, something like this. Click enter. This will create a branch and switch. So when I choose switch in here, so this will switch from the master to the creator branch in here. Now we are actually currently exclusive. If you go to the VS Code, that's why I love it. It tells you that, the current selected branch is improve readme. Okay, so we want to commit the changes into this particular branch so we could create the PR. So to go in here, I'm gonna do new readme change for improvements, whatever you want to call it. Okay, click yes, push that, put everything that you want. So before pushing the changes, we need to make sure that this repository or whatever the other users contributing to this repository has the access to put that code and contribute. Okay, so if you go to settings in here on the current repository we are in, and you go just to collaborators, you're gonna find there's 0 collaborators can have access to this repository, and you can direct access and everything. So you can go and add people in here. So if somebody else you see this person, I would like to give this person access to basically manage and push new PRs, do new changes, and so on and so forth. So for that, you need to just go and put the username. So for the username, I'm gonna choose myself. I think my username is more IPNOS like this. So let's see. So the I need to remove the add. So just go and do add IPNOS to this repository, and this should add it as it has a pending invite in here, so you need to go ahead and accept the invite through an email in order for you to be able to continue on this current account. All right, now I have accepted actual invitation. As you see, now I'm approved and everything, so I can go back to my code repository. So as you see, we got the change in here, and I can go ahead and sync the changes. So I'm going to click sync changes. This will actually push and pull commits to and from origin improve readme in here. That's exactly what I want to do in here. So let's go ahead and do it. So you might get this particular error in here that cannot find the remote ref and improve readme, because this is actually the first time you push that. So instead of doing sync changes, you can go to the actual branch in here and just you can go and push that particular branch. So yes, we'll push one single commit from this particular branch, improve readme, to origin. So click push, and this will actually go and push that because you already got the actual right to do so, and you're a collaborator in this particular repository, so we are good to go. Okay, everything is pushed, we're good to go. I'm gonna jump back into my projects in here, and if I go and refresh it real quick in this particular one, so just the changes to be in, exclusively we're gonna find a particular new branch. So this is actually pretty cool, right? Because this is a setting down on a separate branch, but it's not actually, it does have nothing to do with the master branch anyway. All right, now how can I tell this particular user, the Git Master 404, that, oh, I'm IPNOS, I'm Islam in here, and I want to take my changes that I put by the sudden on the improve readme branch, and we're gonna like merge them and make them available on the master branch. And this is where PRs comes through. Okay, so let's go and enter, like, create our PR in here. So if we go ahead into the pull request section, you can do like compare and pull, whatever, this kind of stuff. It's better just going to the new like button in there to create a new request, and it's gonna tell you, oh, you want to put from like compare master to the base master, or you want to do like improve readme from like that to the base master. And this is actually going to pick up the changes. So you see in here, I got 2 commits, 2 file changes, 1 contributor to this particular commit, and it's going to give you the differences, what happens. So this is actually, for me, I'm creating the PR, so it's telling me, oh, you added this particular comment compared to the master branch, and you added this new one to the readme file, and you added this to like the content script.js. Pretty sweet, and it just like detects everything, and it's actually really awesome UI, and it gives you all the details. So make sure to choose like the branch, the target one, and or like the source one to the target one, which is always going to be master for pull request. Okay, so this will discuss and review changes in comparison with others. So you can go with like do create a pull request for this particular site. So I'm going to do create pull request. This will like, you know, what comments you want to do for this particular pull request in here, and you want to choose like reviewers, assignees, labels, and so on and so forth. So maybe just the comments, quick or improving maybe the readme file for users. Okay, so this could be like a markdown here, so you can just go and review it. Now for reviewers are going to be all the developers that have access to this current repository. Mostly they are like the admin guys. So you want to choose the reviewers as like somebody's going to review this pull request and either approve it and merge it to master, or completely decline it and say, oh, you don't want to merge that because you got a defect. Or maybe you can put them a comment that you got, oh, you need to change this line of code because it's defected and it doesn't work anymore, and so on and so forth. So it needs review before it can be merged. So that's what you want to do in here. So click settings. For currently in here, as I said before, there's only a single person or 2 people exactly on this repository. So I'm going to choose this particular person to go in and review that, which is the Git Master 404s. So you can go like, oh, which assignee I'm going to assign this to. So I can assign this to like 2 people, me and myself and a Git Master. You can put like labels, maybe this is a bug, maybe a duplicate, whatever in here. So I'm going to choose improvement. So this question valid. Yeah, this is called an enhancement in here. All right. So this is going to be enhancement. You have a project? No. Milestone? No. Never mind. And these are the changes I'm going to be putting. Okay. So once I click create pull request, this will actually create a pull request and it will assign it for our reviewer to review the pull request. Sweet. So this is actually our pull request in here. It looks pretty sweet. Maybe you can find like a CI/CD pipeline is going to run for it or something, but never mind about this. Now, if we jump into our main user, which is the owner of the Wordle AI repository, so what we can see in here. So let's go and jump into the pull request. And there you go. We're going to find our first pull request in here. It's going to be like open and everything. And this is the guy. So we're going to see, so this all checks failed. You can just go and ignore this because some like GitHub tries to run some actions or workflows in this to test the code, but never mind. It's not really set up for that. So what we got in here is you can read, oh, this guy wants to do these changes. He got an enhancement. He put me as a reviewer. He has 2 file changes. He has 2 commits. Checks from GitHub in here, never mind for that. And there is like files changes. So that's what we got in here. So for review, you can go to like submit a review, comment, approve, or request changes. Okay. So mostly what we want is actually to approve that. And it's actually getting, once we click on approve, this will merge it to master. So I'm going to do like great job, nice improvements. Okay. And this will basically just going to put it so you can do like preview, whatever, and you can do like submit review. All right. So this will basically go ahead and review it. As you can see, oh, that's me. I did actually a pretty good review in here. And what you want eventually is actually to merge this to master. So you can click, go ahead and like merge pull request, and like, you know, whatever like the merge message is going to be, I'm going to do confirm merge in here, and this will pull request successfully merged and closed. So now this is a merge, as clear as the colors are changed, which looks absolutely better. And if we just go back into our repository and go to the master branch, as clear as you're going to see like merge pull request from this particular one. So this is the last change. For check out the commits. So this is the last change. We merged a pull request from like git master 404 improve readme file. Hallelujah. And this is exactly how collaboration works between both of these, like between a developer and another on a particular repository. So it works absolutely fine. So I hope you guys got an idea of how that works. It's actually a complicated task and everything. It's very complicated to explain how that works, but I hope you guys got this scenario inside of your head and understood this actually how it works behind the scenes. And also, if we go back to our repository in here, which is the main repository, and here we are like the git master 404. So this is our admin and our repository. So we got a new change, right? We got another change that's submitted by a different user, but our repository in here doesn't know about that change, right? Because it's another repository, never knew that there is this change. So what is the other aspect we need to learn about on GitHub or on Gits or in general with GitHub is actually fetching the changes or pulling the changes. So how to do that? There's two commands, but mostly what you want to do is actually the git pull origin, and you give it like which branch you want to pull from, which is most of the time is going to be master, but if you got a separate branch, you can name or use that particular name. So git pull in here is going to pull all the changes, the recent changes from the GitHub repository, and it's going to actually merge it with the current repository. As you see here, we're currently selected with the master branch. Okay, so once you click enter in here, it's going to go ahead and fetch all the data. As you see, it tells, oh yeah, I know there's two particular changes for this, and there's the readme file, MD file, and there is the src content script.js, and it gives you like how many changes there is, like 2 files changes, 3 insertions. Sweet. Now if I go and check out my commits in here, just refresh those real quick, as you see now, oh, there's this new commit. There's a merge of pull request from that particular guy that is made by Islam Abud, but not by me anymore, because that's a completely different guy who collaborated with me. Sweet. So always make sure to fetch your changes or pull your changes from the GitHub repository when there is, collaboration happening, so you don't lose control and you don't like work with old legacy code before you can, push it again.
The other most important feature about GitHub are GitHub Actions. So actions are a way to actually execute your code and do something like build your code in like a Docker container or a Linux image, or like deploy your code or something like this. So actions can be triggered automatically. Like for example, you say, oh, I want this particular action, or I want my code to be deployed to this particular cloud whenever I push a new change to master, or I want the code to be like pushed and deployed every single time the user merges a new pull request. And this could be like happening because you've got like this distributed team or a remote team, people like 5 people or more, like 10 people working on the same projects. And whenever there's a new pull request and this particular pull request has been approved and merged, you get this new deployment happening, and it's going to be triggered and done on behalf of the GitHub Actions. So GitHub Actions are simply like running your code on a specific Linux machine or a Docker machine, and it's going to be used for like purposes to build and deploy that to a cloud, or maybe build it and push it to like an npm registry or something like this. So it's more related into like running this on a Docker container or like a separate instance machine, and this machine will be like the same way as your computer is, but it's going to be more like just going to be used for building and doing this kind of like quick building stuff, maybe linting, maybe checking out errors. So, and the most important part about actions is it can run automatically. So whenever like you push something to master, like push or merge a new PR, it's going to automatically be triggered by GitHub, which means you're going to have this awesome workflow, and you're going to have like a continuous integration that works just right. So if we jump real quick into this, like this is the diagram of like GitHub Actions and how it works. So you can imagine like a quick user just push something, so it can go to manually run the workflow or the GitHub action by itself, or it can be triggered by an event. This is what the workflow looks like. So it runs that, and it's going to be put inside of a Linux machine, and it's clearly see like it installs dependencies and builds projects. This is just an example because you can literally do whatever you want in there. It can just run, even like run bash scripts in there or bash commands. you can do whatever you would able to do on a local machine and run that particular one. So it mostly is going to be used for like installing dependencies and building a project, then deploying into a cloud or AWS EC2 or something like this. And there's, as Chris in here, the last one is deployment and everything. So this is in a brief what GitHub Actions are and how workflows or GitHub workflows work behind the scenes. So if you head over to Actions real quick, the Actions tab in here, you're going to find an empty one because we haven't added any actions yet to our repository. So you're going to find a different one, like for example, the suggested one. There's the Webpack, so you can use this Webpack configured action to basically run the Webpack build and build this project whenever there's, you know, something like you can manually do it, like manually trigger that particular action, or as I said before, depending on the events on the repository. You can do many stuff, like you can publish a Node.js package. So you imagine this Wordle AI is like a package, like an npm package, and we want to, like, whenever there is a new pull request that comes through to our code in here, code project, and whenever this pull request has been merged into the master branch, we want to, like, you know, go ahead and update this npm repository or npm package and publish it into the private npm repository or the public npm repository. So that's what most libraries, like you see, for example, React, maybe Angular, and those big title libraries and everything are just like automating the process, because they don't really like want to go every single time there's a new version or a new pull request or a new feature request or any of that sort. They just, they say, I don't want to do this manually, right? Because I want automatically to have all this working fine. And that's exactly what GitHub Actions are for. So you can do many things in here, like Node.js. There's so many actions available, and those that are in here are like the standard ones. So those are available from the GitHub team themselves, but as well, you can actually access different actions or custom-made actions by different users. For example, there's this action GitHub pages or GitHub release, which is just an action that whenever you do like publish a new tag in here, like, which means a new version, you basically, what's going to happen is like it runs this particular action and it pushes it to a release. And that's exactly what we're going to be using for our code base. So this particular action is going to allow us to publish to releases. And what do we want to, like, what do we mean by releases anyway? So releases are like builds of this particular project. So if you go to this section, go to the code section and go to releases, you're going to find, no releases published yet. And you can go ahead and create a new release. So it's clear in here, a release is actually a tag, and it just like, you need to like put a target in here, like master or whatever branch it is. But a tag in here, a tag basically represents a specific point in the history of like a particular branch. So like a tag in here, you can, mostly tags are used for versioning. So you can say, at this point I have version 1.0.0, and later on, whenever you add a new feature, add another tag at that specific point of like a commit, say, we got a different version or a newer version, which is version 1.0.1 or 1.1.0 or something like this. So it's clear in here, tag suggestions. So it's common practice to prefix your version name with either the V, some good tag might be like V1 or something like this. So this is what tags it is. And like the releases in here, what basically they can do, as clear in, you can attach binaries by dropping them in here. So you can attach whatever file you want, and these files will be like, like put as the releases for our code base. So I got the same thing in here happening for me. So for example, if I go to this, like the Word solver, which is on IPNOS, my original account in here. So this one is the same Chrome extension basically. So if you go to the releases, you're gonna find full releases already. As you can see, there are version, there's the initial release, there's the V1.0.1.0 and so on and so forth. So you see, if you take a look on the assets, so this is what the release has. The release basically has a tag in here, which is the version name, and it has like the different assets. It has the source code at that particular release. You can download this as a zip file, or it has any other binary you add. So whenever we look, like whatever you basically add of these binaries in here is going to be included throughout the release. So I added the extension CRX, which is like the bundle of this particular extension. So anybody else, any user basically can pick up this bundle, pick up this CRX file, and go to the Chrome DevTools and install this particular one and enjoy their lives with this particular extension. So this is exactly what we want. You can do more deployments, but what we want to do for this particular action is actually whenever we push a new tag, we want to go ahead and build that and actually create this particular extension and build this Chrome bundle. This is more like a Chrome bundle in here. So we want to like build it and push a release or a particular release for it. And alongside the other action, I want to use two two more actions. There's this web extension build tools pack extension dir action. This basically just takes your extension, which is a Chrome extension by the way, and zip that particular one. So it just like converts that into a zip. So I'm going to use this to convert this to a zip, and after converting to a zip, we're going to use another action that's going to take that particular zip file and is going to turn it into like a CRX file, or like build this for the Chrome store, or just like the Chrome ecosystem, in order to be able to make it work as a Chrome extension, and of course release it for other people to quickly go ahead and download it. So that's exactly what I want to go ahead and use, so we can use all these actions. And that's what I really like about GitHub, is actually you can reuse different actions from other people's code or other people's like repositories in here. So you can like have a generic action that does something like, for example, this one, and share it on a particular repository. And if you want to like go ahead and use this, you can just go and do like, oh, use this GitHub action in your projects. Yes, I want to. You go to view it in the marketplace, and there you go. On the marketplace, you're going to find this. You're going to find the different instructions and how to run it and use it, and yada. So let's go ahead and use this one. So there's actually a scripting. There's different versions and how you want to use it. So you can go to this one. You can like go ahead and use, or do like use latest version or whatever. You can use it from GitHub, but I would rather go ahead and create the file myself rather than just going and following this particular one. But if you really want to like go ahead and use this one, for example, if I want to use this GitHub release thing, click release in here. It tells you how to install this. You basically need to put it inside of your YAML file, inside of the GitHub folder, and actually copy this particular one, and you're done with it. If you want to like provide some config to it, you can easily go ahead and do it. So let's jump back into our project. So our project is the Word AI in here. Now, how do we create an action? Basically, if you don't like have a .github folder in here already in your projects, go ahead and create a .github. But if it does exist, you are actually good to go, and you are ready to get started. So all you need to do is go ahead and make another folder for it. So you can name it workflows, and this folder is going to have all the actions or workflows are going to be stored right over there. Okay, sounds pretty good, and that's pretty easy. Now let's go ahead and add a new workflow. I want to add a workflow that's going to do build and release, and make sure the workflow ends in .yml or YAML file. So this one is going to use the YAML syntax, so be sure to go ahead and use this. All right, so in the right track in here, so I already got a pretty good workflow like happening in here. So I'm not going to go through all the details of workflows, but I'm going to show you exactly how this works, because this is more a beginner thing. But if you want to go more into details of how workflows works and different options in here, hopefully I will put another video tutorial. But in the meantime, you can go in and check out some blogs or whatever. But anyway, so this is actually our workflow. The syntax is pretty simple. It's a YAML file. So YAML is more like, this is the key, and you put a colon, and you put a value for it. Okay, and the key in here, of course, is recognizable by whatever parser it is going to be using, which is the GitHub workflow in our case. So here we tell it like, oh, this is the name of our workflow. Make sure to choose a unique name, because you will be able to select different workflows. There's the on in here, which is basically like it tells, oh, when do you want to trigger this particular action or this particular workflow? So I want to trigger it on push of a new tags. And this is actually how the syntax I want the tag to be. So like v whatever dot whatever dot whatever. Okay. So I want also the workflow dispatch in here, so I can run it manually. So I don't like need to every single time trigger it like automatically on a push of a tag. And if you go to the jobs in here, so this is where you like define your build steps. So here jobs and the build, and you tell it like, oh, where do you want to run this? I want to run this on Ubuntu latest version of Ubuntu. So it's going to run a Docker container, more particularly a Docker container or a Linux instance, and it's going to put an Ubuntu latest image of it. All right, pretty sweet. There are the steps in here, and the steps in here is clearly the first one. So the steps are going to be like, they're going to run in a waterfall model. So like the first step is going to run the first, the second step is going to run the second, and so on and so forth. So the first one is a checkout, and what I mean by checkout is going to like check out, like, because this is a separate instance, it's like running a separate machine. So this will go ahead and check out the repository. So it will check out the code that you've got in your repository right here. It will grab it, it will clone it, and it will pull it in there so you can go and start work with it. So this is the first most important one. You can start with it. The second one is we're going to use our action, the custom action in here from Cardinal By, I think, and this is the action name, so we'll give it an ID as well. And here the width is basically to specify different options. So we're going to do like the extension directory is the public directory in here, and the zip file path, I want to put it inside of a dist folder and extension.zip. So it's going to create a destination folder inside of like the same here where the working directory is, and put this in a zip file. So this will basically just zip everything into that. The second one in here, or the third one, is building the CRX file. We're going to use another action. We give it different stuffs in here. The secrets in here is basically like you can specify secrets or different like secret stuff, like the environment variable is going to be passed through on the GitHub settings of your repository. So I did already put some value in here, like a private key for me, like just like going to be using it for building that CRX file. And last but not least, we're going to use the JS release. So this will release, like we give it files, and I want to release this into like the current repository, and I put in a new release with a new tag that has been pushed. Okay, as simple as that. This is what the workflow is. But of course, you can be more kind of like creative with this, and you can do literally whatever you want in here. You can do so many stuff. You can do deployments, you can use AWS, you can use Google Cloud, you can use yada yada yada. So many stuff. It's like running a Docker container, but it's more like tied into your code base. And this is what's called CI/CD, or continuous integration and continuous deployments. This is how we're gonna do it. And I gave you example in here of how to use this with a Chrome extension. All right, pretty sweet. The next step we want to go through, we added our workflow, we got added our YAML file, the config is ready. Let's go ahead and push the changes into the code repository. So go git, add, git, commit, and I'm going to do add build workflow. And I'm going to last but not least git push to the origin, and you're going to specify master. So this will push to the origin of our like repository in here. If I go back to here and go to actions now, and there you go. Now it knows all workflows I got build and release workflow. And you can go ahead and trigger this manually because it has the workflow like dispatch in here option. But you can do this like using a tag or whenever you have got a new tag. So let's go and try to do this by pushing a new tag. A tag is basically a reference or a particular points in the commit history of your project. So if you go git log in here, you're going to see, oh, these are the commits that I've got right here. And like so many of them, like so many commits in here. But when you create a tag, for example, you want to tag this particular commit, and whatever comes before it, this will be like, oh, this is version 1.0, and I don't want to include this one first. That's simply what a tag is. So they mostly use for versioning, as I said before. So let's go ahead and do a tag. So to simply create a tag, just do git tag and give it whatever the name, and it's going to use the most recent. It's going to use head, which is like the most recent commit that you are currently in. So if I go to my source control in here and go to commits, it's going to use like this last commit, and it's going to like tag it with whatever version we give it. And what you want to give it in here is actually the tag version or the tag name. Mostly I'm going to like put in this because this is the first version. So it's going to be v1.0.0. Click enter, and the tag has been successfully created. So if I go to git tag -- list, you're going to find our tag right over here, which is pointing to the current repository. All right, pretty sweet. Now let's go ahead and push our tags. And to simply push the tag to the remote repository, just do git push and specify the origin in here, and you specify the tag name. So 1.0.0 is our tag name. Click enter, and this will basically take the local tag in here, like the new tag created, and put it into the remote tag. All right, pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and see our workflow, and there you go. We already saw like a workflow has already started running, and it's clear to see it's currently in progress. So it has been triggered by our like the tag has been created. Whenever we push the tag, we saw that trigger coming through. So it's curious in here. If I try to go ahead and do it, yes, I think because it can't like find something, it's already erroring out. So clearly see the private key is failed. So I need to add a private key for my extension in here to work properly. So I need to go like actions, probably it's going to be secrets, and go to actions, and this is where you add your action secrets. So I'm going to do a new repository secrets. I'm going to do like the Chrome CRX private file, and I'm going to go back and copy my private file in here. So those are not things that you should like know about or anything, but yeah, it's pretty good to add those secrets in here. So I'm going to remove that space, click adding that. This will add a new secret. If we go back to go in actions in here, and we're going to go ahead like this is because it has failed. Let's go in and rerun this one. So so click on this, trying to run all jobs. So the rerun all jobs, and the build is going to be started. Just click on it in here. You're going to find more details about the build, like what is actually currently going on, what are the steps he has done. It's clear to see job defined, and it gives you all the list that you've did it. So it's clear zipping, building the CRX file, releasing, and it's actually pushing the changes, and the build has been successfully done. Hallelujah. as simple as that. And so this, it's pretty fast. And that's what I love about GitHub, is actually they have the actions, and their like Docker instances are pretty sweet and pretty easy and super quick to actually get the jobs done. Awesome. Now, if I head over to my code repository in here and go to the tags, or the releases, sorry, you're going to find immediately there is a new release coming up, and you're going to find version 1.0.0, which is the same tag that we've put, and there's this extension.crx, which the same extension we've created. So if you click on this, you can easily download this, you can copy this, and you can run the Wordle AI player extension in here, and you can all have fun, and you can all enjoy this. So that was actually about the actions, and there's more into actions, and you can more learn about actions, about the config file, how to use the config properly, and how to specify different stuff, and yada. But that was just like a getting started or introduction into how to use GitHub Actions, and to how to set up workflows and how to run them, and the sort of stuff that you should simply know to get started with actions.
The other very interesting part I love about GitHub is actually the CLI, which is compared to others like Bitbucket or maybe GitLab, they don't actually have this particular CLI. So GitHub actually signs in this particular part of having a CLI, and the CLI can be able to like manage your repositories, authenticate, remove SSH keys, like literally do anything as you would do it throughout the UI, which is absolutely amazing, and I love the absolutely the syntax. So you go to like cli.github.com, and you can go to install this. It's exclusive for Linux for me, but it's actually available for Windows and Macs pretty much everywhere, and you can do a lot of stuff with it. So once you install this, you can just go to the install in here. It's gonna be, just like running a couple of scripts in here for different, stuff to install. But once it's installed, so you can do gh, and this is how you run it. So gh in here starts for like GitHub, of course. So this will give you different commands. So the first command you want to choose is the GitHub auth. So you want to do gh auth login, which I already did. So this will allow you to log in or authenticate the GitHub CLI with the actual web browser or with your account. So make sure it's going to open up a web browser for you. You're going to copy some code, and you're going to like authenticate. Okay, that's simple. And there's a couple of different stuff. Maybe you want to check out aliases. Maybe you want to like use the API itself. Maybe you want to do like a repository, check out how many repositories you got, guests. Maybe you want to browse public repositories, and much more. So let's go ahead and try a simple thing, which is I want to check, for my current user, how many repositories I got. Maybe I want to like check out repositories. I don't want to use the UI. Okay, so I'm going to do gh repo and do list. So click on that. It's clearly showing 1 of 1 repositories for this user, which is this particular repository. As simple as that. Maybe what you want to do is actually go in and check out how many PRs I got open. Okay, so I'm going to do PR. I'm going to do list. If I click enter, it's clearly no open pull request. But I don't want to look for the open pull request. I want to put the state to be merged. Okay, I want the merged ones. And indeed, it's going to tell me, you got this merged one, which is the improved README in here. And if you click on it, it should have taken you to a link, but for some reason it's not working. But yes, indeed, this is actually working absolutely fine. And the GitHub CLI is actually crushing it. I always love to use the CLI. It's compared to the Git CLI. They are quite different, really, because GitHub CLI is actually more like a product thing. It manages GitHub itself, it manages the services. It might use a little bit of like GitHub commands or the Git command stories to manage that, but overall, they can like work together real seamlessly. The other very important aspect of having a GitHub profile is actually turning your profile into a portfolio. And how is that? Well, if you just jump into my portfolio in here, for example, at github/ipinus, you're going to find this is my portfolio, right? It's pretty simple. But the main part that you're going to take your site, the first thing is like, it has a README file, and it has this really awesome thing. It has like what technologies you're working on, maybe some cool text in here, more technologies, maybe a CV. If you click in here, you're going to find like different stuff. So this is called like the GitHub portfolio thing, which came newly to GitHub, but it's just going to absolutely change your aspects, and it's going to make your GitHub from a regular GitHub like account into a more of like a portfolio, really. So it's gonna like list all the projects you can do in here, maybe like the contributions you've got in top in there, and more information like what you do in here, and you can like introduce yourself and everything. So like when you apply for jobs, this is gonna be like the main entry point for everyone to know, oh, this is my GitHub profile, right? And it looks absolutely stunning. So how do you get the same thing in here? Of course, you can go, and it's just like a README file, so you can go through like Markdown and create this by yourself. But in my opinion, the best way is actually to clone or fork somebody else's README file. So for example, I can fork my README file in here. I can go and use it on my profile right over here. So how can I do that? So I click on this particular button, just gonna take me to the main projects, and this is where the project lives. Basically, it's just a simple README file set before, maybe other files that links into it, like the CV and everything, but that's simply what it is. Now, how can I do this? I can exclusively, so many people already forks this, so you want to go and click fork this, and make sure you are on the account that you need it. Now, it's actually forking this from ipinwis/ipinwis, so just wait a couple of seconds, and there you go. Now it has been forked, and it's actually inside of get master 404 ipinwis. Now, how can I make this take effect? If I go to my repo right now, it doesn't show up, right? It's just a forked version, and it's actually, its name is ipinwis. How can I make that work? So you need to change this fork, or you need to change the name from ipinwis to match your name in here. So it would be something like getmaster404/getmaster404. So you could, like, this way you tell GitHub that, oh, this is the portfolio thing I want to use, so make sure to go ahead and use it. So simply to do so, what I can clearly or easily do is actually go and copy your name in here, or your username more particularly, go to the settings of your fork, the fork one I've put it, and change the repository in here to your name in here. As clearly see, it tells you, oh, that's available. Yes, I want to rename this. So as clearly see, it's completely renamed in here. Now, as clearly see, you're going to see some special button popping up for you that say, oh, we found this special, or we found this special feature in here. Do you want to make this README of this repository on your public GitHub profile? Yes, I want to, and I'm going to click share to profile. So once you click it, there you go. I'm on my account, getmaster404, and it's actually been applying the new one. Just as simple as that. In 2 clicks, you got this one. Of course, you can't just keep this one because maybe your name is not Islam, but for me, it does work perfectly. But if you ever happen to like need to change this one, you can just easily go to the edit button in here, and this will pop up like the README file. You can go and clone the repository inside of your VS Code projects in here, or your VS Code editor, and you can change it more professionally. But still, this one can do the job. So you can change whatever in here. You can preview. You see the changes. Maybe like you want to change, oh, my name is not Islam anymore. Okay, I'm Alex, right? It's clear to see change in here. And once you done with the changes, you can go and like do commit changes, update the README, update my portfolio, okay, and do like commit changes. Or maybe I'm gonna keep my name, okay, just to make it look a little bit better. Maybe I can do, yay, set up my portfolio. Maybe something like this, okay, with a cool emoji that is up in there. So I'm going to click commit changes, and there you go. So you see here, the changes or the new changes are submitted successfully. If I go back to the repo, exclusively, you're going to see update my portfolio, which is the last commit I made. And if I jump to my profile, I'm going to see this new change in here. Hallelujah. It's as simple as that to actually fork and make your profile look a lot more professional. So if I take my portfolio or my GitHub profile and take this particular version, this latest version with this awesome README file, with this awesome projects in here, and you compare it to the previous version we got, you're going to see an absolute difference, and of course you're going to fall in love with this. So this one is a lot different. I'm not going to say or tell you just go and fork my version in here. I'm going to probably rework my version, this one. I'm going to rework it for my profile soon in another video tutorial. But you can just like whatever you find out there. There's so many people offering this kind of stuff, so you can go and check out theirs, and you can fork it in your own in here, edit it a little bit here and there, and hallelujah, you got a professional profile with 2 repositories already like pushed in here, especially the Word AI. And yes, you are actually, or you have officially started your open source career, and you made it into the professional world of using a GitHub account. Also, what makes GitHub special, or a little bit more special compared to others, is this feature, or the awesome feature which is called Gist, or Gists. So GitHub Gist is actually like code snippet that you can share with other people, and they're like single file that you say, oh, I got this particular, for example, these are the emojis code on the GitHub, so you can just copy paste them on the Gist. Maybe this source code in here does something with TypeScript, maybe another Gist in here to, you know, like just this particular script to download something, and yada yada yada. So this is basically what a Gist is, and to access Gist you need to go different kind of like domain name. So it's actually gist.github.com, and this is like how it lives in here. So sorry, I need to go back. So this is what the Gist in is. Because I've already got a couple of start Gist, maybe forks Gist in here, Gist I started in here, so it's actually really nice to go and have Gist, and you can share code snippets with different people. So maybe clicking on this one in here, so you see how this is how to install the OpenGDK 11. So it gives you all the instructions and everything, and you can have comments from different people, maybe people improving the code, and yada yada yada. So yeah, absolutely loving it. The Gist stuff is really good, and you can even embed it. So if you've seen like this blocks like using some really awesome codes, they're just basically because putting this Gist and just like embedding it in here, and GitHub will take care of it. So it's actually really nice, and I would really like advise you to just go in and check out the potential of Gist, because yeah, absolutely loving it. I've been using it for quite some time, and it looks absolutely adorable. And that was it. So thank you guys for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this particular video tutorial for like going through GitHub and using GitHub and all the services and what this does and how to set up your profile. So just like taking you from a beginner to completely mastering like GitHub and having a clue of what GitHub is and how to actually use it to make, you know, a better version of yourself and better version if you're like developer side of self or whatever you want to call it. But anyway guys, thank you guys for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and catch you all hopefully in the next ones.